What if I told you that one of the world's greatest billion-dollar empires almost never existed? You won't believe this. James Dyson, the man whose name you now see on sleek machines in homes around the globe, was once nothing more than a desperate inventor drowning in failure. Not one, not 10, not 100, but 5,127 failures. Most people would have quit long before. He didn't, and that shocking story changed everything. Most of us are taught to fear failure, to run from it, to see it as proof that we're not good enough. But the truth revealed here flips that belief upside down. Dyson's story proves that failure isn't the end of the road, it's the hidden lesson that builds empires. What no one tells you is that success rarely comes from luck or perfect timing. It comes from getting up one more time than the world expects you to. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because Dyson's empire wasn't just about a vacuum. It was about resilience, vision, and the refusal to accept no. This isn't just a business story. It's a life story, and if you stay with me, you'll see how his pain, his rejections, and his failures hold the same lessons you can use right now. So the question is, are you ready to learn from 5,127 mistakes that turned into billions? Stay until the end, because what really happened next could change the way you see your own failures forever. The orphan boy with a dream at just 9 years old, James lost his father, and with him, the little sense of stability he had. Overnight, the world became colder, harsher, and lonelier. Most kids that age are worried about toys or playing outside, but James was worried about survival. You won't believe this. The truth revealed is that tragedy often plants the seed for greatness. His small home was filled with silence, and in that silence, his imagination grew louder. What no one tells you is that pain can sometimes be the best fuel. And in James's case, it sparked an obsession that would change everything. James wasn't the loud kid in the room. In fact, he was the opposite, introverted, quiet, always lost in thought. But behind those curious eyes was a storm of questions. How do things work? Why do they break? Could they be better? Most people saw a shy boy. What really happened inside his mind was far from ordinary. Every broken toy, every rusty bike part, every household gadget became a puzzle waiting to be solved. No one saw it coming, but those little obsessions were training his mind for a billion-dollar breakthrough. Picture this. Other kids are running around the fields, laughing and forgetting their troubles, while James is sitting cross-legged with a screwdriver in hand, dissecting an old radio. His friends thought he was weird, adults thought he was wasting time. But James saw hidden lessons everywhere. What no one tells you is that curiosity, when fed by hardship, becomes unshakable determination. And here's the shocking story. Those quiet hours of tinkering would one day challenge the biggest corporations in the world. The contrast in his life couldn't be sharper. On one side, poverty, hunger, a constant reminder of what he didn't have. On the other, dreams of inventions that could make life easier, better, even extraordinary. He lived between two worlds, the brutal reality of lack and the vivid imagination of possibility. And sometimes it almost didn't work because the weight of despair could crush even the brightest dreamer. But James held on. Somehow, against all odds, he believed there was more ahead. And that belief would soon be tested. Most people would crumble under the weight of early loss. James, however, transformed grief into fuel instead of bitterness. He chose curiosity instead of giving up. He asked more questions. It's easy to say now that this mindset built his empire, but back then, no one saw it coming. This wasn't a story of instant genius. It was a slow burn, a series of small sparks in the middle of dark nights. And each spark whispered the same message: keep going, there's something waiting on the other side. But let's be real, nothing about his journey looked promising. Teachers didn't see a prodigy, friends didn't see a leader, even he, at times, doubted himself. The truth revealed is that greatness rarely looks like greatness at the start. It looks like a lonely kid taking apart junk no one cares about. It looks like failure disguised as practice, And yet, every piece of broken metal he studied brought him one step closer to changing industries forever. The secret behind it all? Relentless curiosity born from pain. Now imagine being a child who constantly dreams of building but has nothing to build with. James improvised. He'd scavenge scraps, reuse broken parts, invent with whatever was available. And here's the shocking story: scarcity made him smarter. You won't believe this, but sometimes not having enough teaches you to think beyond limits. That's what really happened to him. The world saw poverty, James saw possibility. And that mindset, that refusal to be defined by lack, shaped everything that came next. But here's the hidden lesson: those early struggles weren't just obstacles, they were the foundation. What no one tells you is that without the pain, there might not have been the obsession. Without the silence, there might not have been the imagination. And without the loss, there might not have been the grit to endure what was coming. Because soon, James would face not just personal hardship, but thousands of failures. And this is where the shocking story truly begins. 5,127 failures that changed everything. James Dyson became obsessed with one single question: why do vacuum cleaners lose suction? Most people use them without a second thought. But Dyson couldn't stand inefficiency. You won't believe this. He saw a simple household problem as a billion-dollar opportunity, and so began the mission that would consume years of his life. But the truth revealed is darker. This wasn't an easy road. It almost didn't work. In fact, it nearly destroyed him. Prototype number 1 didn't work. Neither did number 2. By the 10th, frustration was eating away at him, but Dyson didn't stop. Day after day, failure after failure, he kept building. And here's the shocking story: by the time he reached his 100th prototype, most people would have quit. By the 500th, everyone thought he was insane, and yet, the number kept climbing. Each failure felt like another nail in the coffin, but it was also a hidden lesson disguised as defeat. Friends laughed, manufacturers rolled their eyes. Even his wife sometimes wondered if he had lost his mind. Imagine spending years chasing something no one else believes in. What no one tells you is that innovation looks a lot like madness in the beginning. Dyson's workshop became a graveyard of broken plastic, tangled wires, and shattered dreams. No one saw it coming, but inside that chaos was the seed of a revolution. Most people quit after 5 failures. Dyson failed 5,127 times. Let that sink. In 5,127. Each one was a reminder that success was nowhere in sight. Each one could have been the last straw, and yet he didn't stop. What really happened here wasn't about talent or luck. It was raw, brutal perseverance. And here's the secret behind it: every failure taught him something new, something no textbook could ever teach. Picture the scene: a dimly lit workshop, stacks of discarded prototypes surrounding him, the smell of burnt plastic in the air. Dyson, covered in dust, muttering to himself, tweaking one more design, drilling one more hole. And when it failed again, he didn't throw it away in rage. He studied it. What went wrong? What could be improved? This changed everything. Because while the world saw failure, he saw feedback. He was learning the rules by breaking them. Now imagine the toll it took. Financial strain, emotional exhaustion, nights with no sleep, mornings with no answers. It could have ended here. In fact, most people thought it should have. Give it up, James, they told him. It's not going to work. But he refused. You won't believe this. He found strength in rejection. Each laugh, each doubt, each insult became gasoline for the fire. The more they doubted, the harder he pushed. And here's a hidden lesson you can apply. Whatever goal you're chasing, don't measure yourself by how quickly it works. Measure yourself by how many times you're willing to stand up after it doesn't. Think about it. How many businesses collapsed after one failed product? How many dreams died after the first rejection letter? Dyson's story proves that failure isn't the end, it's the tuition fee for innovation. Learn from this mistake. Quitting too early is the real failure. But just when he thought the worst was behind him, reality hit harder. Because even after all 5,127 failures led to a working prototype, Dyson discovered another nightmare waiting. No one wanted it. Every manufacturer said no. And that right there could have ended everything. But what really happened next would turn rejection into a revolution. Rejected by every major manufacturer after years of obsession and 5,127 failed attempts, James finally had a prototype that worked. The suction never faded, the design was revolutionary, and the future felt within reach. But here's the shocking story. What really happened next almost crushed him. Instead of celebration, he faced a wall higher than all those failures combined. Because when he took his idea to the world's biggest manufacturers, the response was brutal. Rejection, rejection, rejection. He went to America first. Pitch after pitch, meeting after meeting, doors slammed in his face. Too crazy, they said. Too expensive, no market for it. Imagine the sting, to finally solve a problem no one else could, only to be told it wasn't worth anything. You won't believe this. The same companies that dismissed him would later lose billions, competing against him. But back then, he was just a lone inventor, begging for someone to believe. Europe wasn't kinder. Boardrooms filled with men in suits listened politely, nodded, then politely pushed him out the door. Behind closed doors, they laughed to them. Dyson was a dreamer, out of touch with reality. Most people would have quit here. After all, what good is an invention if no one will build it? But what no one tells you is that rejection can be the most powerful motivator if you let it fuel you instead of break you. Japan, Germany, France, the UK, everywhere he turned, the answer was the same. No, by now, his savings were running dry. The humiliation was suffocating. And yet, deep inside, he clung to one unshakable belief. This will work. He carried that prototype like a piece of his soul, showing it to anyone who would listen, but each rejection felt heavier than the last. And here's the truth revealed. Sometimes the world doesn't see your vision until you force them to. Friends distanced themselves. Investors avoided him. Even family worried he was wasting his life. Imagine being told thousands of times that your life's work is worthless. That level of rejection can break anyone. And it almost did. It could have ended here. But Dyson wasn't. Wired like everyone else, instead of collapsing under the weight, he doubled down. No one saw it coming, but rejection was sharpening him, molding him into the fighter he needed to be. Now, let's pause here, because this hidden lesson applies directly to you. Every great idea faces resistance at first. Think of Walt Disney, fired for lack of imagination, or Steve Jobs, kicked out of his own company. Dyson's rejection wasn't unique. It was the initiation fee for greatness. Learn from this mistake. If the world doesn't immediately validate your dream, it doesn't mean it's worthless. It means you're onto something big enough to scare people. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. Behind the rejection, manufacturers had a secret. They weren't rejecting Dyson because his idea was useless. They were rejecting him because it was too good. A vacuum that never lost suction threatened their business model of selling replacements. The truth revealed, sometimes people don't want your success because it destroys their profits. And this shocking story proves innovation often dies, not because it's bad, but because it's dangerous to the status quo. And yet, despite every door slamming, Dyson's belief never wavered. What no one tells you is that sometimes rejection is just a detour, not a dead end. He carried his invention through the storm, waiting for the one chance, the one believer who could turn everything around, and that believer was about to appear. In a place nobody expected, the breakthrough nobody saw coming. Just when James Dyson was drowning in rejection, something unexpected happened. A small company in Japan, not one of the corporate giants, decided to give him a chance. You won't believe this. The nation known for embracing innovation saw potential where the rest of the world saw madness. Finally, after years of humiliation, someone said yes, and that tiny yes changed everything. But what no one tells you is how fragile this moment really was. It almost didn't work. The Japanese partner agreed to produce a limited batch of his vacuum with no guarantees and no safety net. Imagine the pressure after thousands of failures and endless rejection. This was his single shot. If it bombed, his dream would die forever. Dyson poured everything into that launch. His design, his belief, his soul. And here's the shocking story. The product didn't just work. It worked better than anyone imagined. The vacuum became a quiet phenomenon. At first, only a few small shops carried it. But word spread. Customers couldn't stop talking about it. For the first time, people saw a cleaner that never lost suction, and they were blown away. What really happened was simple. The product sold itself. No flashy ads, no big budget campaigns. Just pure innovation going viral through whispers and conversations. No one saw it coming, but Dyson's empire had just taken its first breath. Picture its shelves in Tokyo with Dyson's strange-looking machine sitting between the traditional brands. Most shoppers ignored it until one person tried it, then another. Soon, demand began to climb. Retailers who had once laughed at him started calling back. You won't believe this. The very idea everyone rejected was now spreading like wildfire. But Dyson knew better than to celebrate too early. He had learned that every victory hides another challenge, and here's the hidden lesson. Sometimes, you don't need the biggest stage to prove your worth. You just need a small stage where people actually care. Dyson didn't conquer America or Europe first. He conquered a niche. That's a principle you can apply right now. Instead of trying to impress everyone, focus on finding the people who truly need what you offer. That's how revolutions start. Small, focused, unstoppable. The Japanese launch gave him credibility, but more importantly, it gave him proof. Proof that his obsession wasn't a waste. Proof that failure had value. Proof that the world didn't need another disposable machine. It needed real innovation. And here's the truth revealed. Sometimes you're only one yes away from rewriting your destiny. But you have to be ready to endure 1,000 no's first. Most people never survive long enough to find their yes. Dyson did. Now imagine the emotional shift. For years, he had been the outcast, the fool, the man no one believed in. Suddenly, he was a pioneer. But this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. Because Dyson realized something crucial. If one small company in Japan believed in him, maybe he didn't need the giants after all. Maybe he could build his own empire, and that thought changed everything. But here's the twist: building your own empire is far harder than convincing someone else to build it for you. Dyson had cracked the code, but he wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. And the next step he was about to take would transform him from a desperate inventor into the founder of a billion-dollar brand. Building a billion-dollar empire. Most inventors, after years of rejection, would have sold their idea the first chance they got. Cash out, retire, finally breathe. But James Dyson, he did the opposite. You won't believe this. When manufacturers offered to buy his patent, he said no. What no one tells you is that decision was the turning point. He wasn't chasing a payout. He was chasing a vision. And this changed everything. Instead of selling out, he built his own company from the ground up. The first Dyson branded vacuum was launched, not with luxury ads or celebrity endorsements, but with bold promises. It doesn't lose suction. That was it. Simple, direct, revolutionary. And here's the shocking story. Customers believed him. The vacuum didn't just clean floors, it cleaned up the competition. Sales exploded, and for the first time, Dyson wasn't just an inventor. He was a brand. No one saw it coming, but a household revolution was underway. From there, Dyson expanded. Hairdryers, bladeless fans, air purifiers, every product broke the rules. Most companies played it safe. Dyson played to disrupt. Each launch carried the same DNA, innovation first, marketing second. And the truth revealed, it worked. People didn't buy Dyson products because they were flashy. They bought them because they worked better than anything else. The secret behind it all was consistency, turning obsession into trust. Marketing, however, played a clever role. Dyson's ads didn't show glamour, they showed function. They didn't sell luxury, they sold results. Picture James himself, calmly explaining the science, like a teacher sharing a secret. Customers loved it. What no one tells you is that authenticity is more powerful than perfection. Dyson wasn't trying to look like a billionaire CEO. He was simply the man who refused to accept good enough, and that message stuck. Now imagine the scale. A small workshop turned into factories. A desperate dreamer turned into a billionaire. Dyson wasn't just selling vacuums, he was selling confidence in innovation. His machines appeared in millions of homes, each one whispering the same message: better is always possible. You won't believe this, the world that once mocked him now lined up to copy him. Competitors scrambled, lawsuits followed, but Dyson kept moving forward. Failure had forged his armor, but here's the shocking story. Even after becoming a billionaire, Dyson didn't stop tinkering. He still spent hours in labs, surrounded by prototypes, chasing the next breakthrough. And this is a hidden lesson you can apply. Success isn't a finish line, it's a cycle. If you build something great, keep building. Don't get comfortable. Think of Amazon, always reinventing. Think of Tesla, always iterating. Dyson lived that mindset every single day. And let's be real, building an empire isn't just about products, it's about philosophy. Dyson proved that when you control your vision, you control your destiny. He didn't let rejection dictate his path. He didn't let manufacturers decide his worth. He built his own rules, his own company, his own future. What no one tells you is that the real wealth wasn't in the billions he made, but in the freedom he created. That's the ultimate success. But even with billions in the bank and his name etched in history, Dyson wasn't satisfied. He wanted more innovation, more challenges, more risks. And what really happened next would reveal the hidden lesson behind his fortune, a lesson that could change the way you see your own failures forever. The hidden lesson behind Dyson's fortune: when people see Dyson's billions today, they think it came from one lucky invention, but you won't believe this. The truth revealed is that the billions didn't come from a vacuum. They came from a mindset, perseverance, vision, and the refusal to accept no as the final answer. What no one tells you is that fortune isn't built on comfort, it's built on struggle. And Dyson's struggle was his greatest investment. It almost didn't work. But because it did, everything changed. Every failure he faced became a blueprint. For resilience, most people see 5,127 broken machines as wasted time. Dyson saw 5,127 lessons. Learn from this mistake. Too many quit when failure feels endless. But Dyson proved failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the foundation. This hidden lesson is one that billionaires quietly live by, but the world rarely sees. What really happened wasn't about an invention. It was about endurance, and that's something anyone can apply. Here's the shocking story. Dyson didn't build a company by chasing trends or copying competitors. He built it by asking one question relentlessly: how can this be better? That simple obsession is what fueled his empire. And you can apply the same principle today. Whether it's your career, your health, or your relationships, keep asking, how can this be better? Improvement is the most powerful business model on earth. It never goes out of style. Think about it. Apple reinvented phones, not by being first, but by making them better. Netflix reinvented TV, not by inventing it, but by making it better. Dyson reinvented cleaning by refusing to settle for good enough. What no one tells you is that you don't need the big idea to build an empire. You just need relentless improvement. And here's the hidden lesson: progress compounds. Every small upgrade eventually becomes a revolution. But Dyson's fortune also teaches something deeper. Resilience is transferable. The man who survived thousands of failures could survive boardroom battles, lawsuits, and global competition. And that's exactly what he did. The secret behind it wasn't technology, it was grit. And that's a truth revealed that schools don't teach, corporations don't share, and most people overlook. Because it's not glamorous, but it's real. Now, imagine applying this in your own life. What if your biggest failure wasn't the end, but the start of your empire? What if the job you lost, the business that collapsed, or the dream that failed was actually training for something bigger? Dyson's life proves that's possible. You won't believe this, but sometimes the door slamming in your face is actually pointing you toward the empire you're meant to build. And here's the cliffhanger that ties it all together. Dyson didn't just leave us machines. He left us a philosophy, a way of seeing the world that says, don't stop at failure, live through it. Because what really happened isn't just a business story, it's a human story. And that's why his fortune matters, not for the billions, but for the blueprint it leaves behind for everyone watching right now. So ask yourself this: if James Dyson could turn broken prototypes into a billion-dollar empire, what could you do with your failures? The hidden lesson is clear: success isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up every single time. And that's the shocking truth no one tells you. Until now. So here's the hidden lesson. James Dyson didn't become a billionaire because he avoided failure. He became one because he embraced it. 5,127 failures weren't roadblocks. They were the foundation of his empire. And now the question turns to you. What failures are you running from that could actually be building your future? Think about it. What if your biggest mistake wasn't the end of your story, but the start of your empire? What if the rejection you faced last week was the same kind of rejection that billionaires once endured? You won't believe this, but what really happened to Dyson could just as easily happen to you if you keep going. Now it's your turn. What would you do differently if you saw failure as tuition instead of punishment? Would you take the risk, try again, build the prototype, pitch the idea one more time, or would you quit before the breakthrough? The truth revealed is that choice belongs to you, and it could change everything. I want you to drop a comment below. What failure in your life taught you the biggest lesson? Share it, because your story might inspire someone else who's about to give up. And don't forget, if you want to keep learning the untold truths behind the world's greatest empires, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because what no one tells you is that the next story might just change the way you see success forever.